I didn't mean for my husband to die. Even now, when the nights stretch too long and the wind crawls beneath the window frame like a living thing, that's the first fact I cling to. Not because it's innocent, but because it's true. Honest truth is rare currency out here. Rarer than silver and harder to come by than rain. Click the subscribe button. My name is Mara Hale, and I lived, on the eastern edge of Rattlesnake County, where the soil is too mean for wheat and too stubborn for cattle except the kind with ribs like fence posts. Our ranch wasn't much, but for 5 years it was what I called home, even when I didn't say the word like I meant it. My husband was Jonas Hale. And the man I meant to poison was not him. But everything began on a night when the sky turned a pale, peculiar blue, the kind of color a bruise makes when it's healing. A strange omen, someone might say. I didn't believe in omens then. I'm not sure I do now. Belief doesn't matter much when death comes shuffling through the house you share with a man you never truly loved. I suppose I should start a little before the poisoning. Before the bottle. Before the decision. Before I became the woman people whisper about in town, even if they don't know it's me they're whispering about. It was late July, the heat hanging so low you could scoop it up with your palm. The cattle had been restless, kicking at dust that floated like ghost skin. Jonas had been restless too. He sat on the porch most nights, staring at the road leading down to town, like the right man might come along to take a weight off his shoulders and the wrong one might come for him. The man who came was Lyle. And Lyle was the wrong one. I first met him the day he showed up with a busted wagon wheel and a grin too wide to trust. He asked if we had tools. Jonas said yes. Lyle asked if we had whiskey. Jonas said also yes. They bonded over shared vices the way men do when they don't want to talk about real things. I stayed inside, peeling potatoes until my knuckles were raw and pink. I could hear their voices through the boards of the house. Low, uneven, punctuated by the thud of boots and the scratch of a match. Lyle had a laugh like a crow. Mocking. Always digging for something soft to hurt. When he laughed, Jonas laughed too, but his laugh had changed since Lyle began visiting more often. Jonas had once laughed like a man surprised by joy. After Lyle arrived, his laughter sounded like defense, a bark meant to fend off a blow. I didn't like Lyle. And Lyle liked that I didn't like him. He'd find excuses to pass near me. For coffee, for dinner, for water, for nothing. He'd smile too long. His eyes would take their time traveling the length of me, and I'd feel a coldness that didn't match the heat outside. He never touched me. But the thing about men like Lyle is they don't need to lay a hand on you to make you feel marked. Jonas never noticed. Or if he did, he didn't care. We weren't a love story, Jonas and I. We were two people who'd run out of ways to leave each other. He was kind once, in a brittle sort of way. But life out here has a habit of grinding kindness down until it turns to dust. And dust was all we seemed to have left. The poison, the reason I'm telling you this story, sat on our shelf for nearly 6 months. Jonas bought it after the coyotes tore one of our calves to ribbons. It came in a small amber bottle with a cork top and a faded label. Foxglove tincture. Enough to stop a heart or slow it so thoroughly that life slipped out like a sigh. Foxglove. Pretty name for something lethal. But that night, the night the sky turned blue, I wasn't thinking about foxglove as poison. I was thinking about Lyle's hands on my kitchen counter. His knuckles brushing mine accidentally. How he held Jonas's attention like a puppet on a string and tugged it tighter every visit. How he'd begun to come even when Jonas wasn't home. That night I was thinking, I should have told Jonas. I should have told someone. I should have told myself sooner. But telling didn't seem safe anymore. Jonas drank too much. Lyle drank just enough to stay wicked. And I drank nothing at all. The plan wasn't really a plan at first. It grew in my mind slowly, like mold in a cellar, creeping, quiet, feeding on the damp places I didn't want to look at. Lyle was the problem. Lyle made Jonas cruel, made me tense, made the house feel too small. Lyle was the wolf that had gotten in among us. And wolves need to be put down. People think poisoning is a crime of sudden impulse. It's not. It's contemplation made lethal. I imagined adding a drop to Lyle's glass during one of his evening visits. That's all it would take. Foxglove works fast on a weakened heart, and Lyle's heart was weakened by whiskey, cigarettes, and sins I didn't need to list. It would look like a heart attack. Something that happened to men in the West all the time. Men were forever dropping dead out here, as though the land had grown tired of them. Should have been simple. Should have been. But nothing in my life has ever been simple. The night I decided I would do it, truly do it, Jonas came home smelling of dust and sweat and a fear he wouldn't name. His shirt clung to him like a second skin, and when he sat at the table, he stared straight ahead, not at me. He was in town again, Jonas muttered. I didn't have to ask who. What did he want this time? I asked softly. Information. The way he said it made my stomach twist. Information about what? You. Jonas rubbed his eyes with the heels of his hands. Hell if I know why he's a skin, but he don't ask like a friend. A silence grew between us. Heavy. Loaded. That was when I realized Jonas feared him too. Not openly. Not the kind of fear a man admits. But there was something about Lyle that crawled under his skin the same way it crawled under mine. Did you tell him anything? Yes. Jonas didn't answer. Which was answer enough. That night I slept poorly. I kept seeing Lyle's face in the dark. Smiling but not at me. Smiling like he knew something that would cost us both. The decision came to me like a storm breaking open. Enough. If the law wouldn't come this far into the desert. If Jonas wouldn't defend our home. If I couldn't leave and Lyle wouldn't stop. Then I would be the one to end it. You might think that makes me wicked. Maybe I am. But a woman does what she must when the world corners her. I prepared the bottle the next afternoon. A single drop on the cork stopper. A small amount mixed into a little jug of whiskey, the one Lyle always reached for. Just enough so that whoever drank from it would feel their breath turn thick, their pulse slow, their chest tighten. Heart attack. Natural. Quick. Jonas had gone to town earlier that day, said he needed flour and rope. It was a lie, we had plenty of both. He went to see Lyle. I knew it the same way I knew when a storm was coming, without needing a cloud in sight. I waited for them to come back together. They always did. But the sunset came and went. The moon climbed. And they did not return. The house was too quiet. The whiskey jug sat heavy in my hands. I almost poured it out right then. Not because I feared killing Lyle, but because I feared that Jonas was with him. Drinking, laughing, unaware of the danger. A good wife would wait. A smart woman would flee. But I was neither. I set the jug back on the shelf, wiped my hands on my apron, and tried to steady my breath. I'll do it tomorrow, I whispered. Tomorrow. But tomorrow never came the way I expected. The door opened just past midnight. Jonas stumbled inside, alone. The night clung to him like something he'd picked up and couldn't shake off. His eyes were red, his lips cracked, and he moved like a man twice his age. Where's Lyle? Yes. Jonas didn't answer immediately. He sank into a chair, rubbed at a bruise blossoming on his cheek. He won't be coming around for a little while, he finally said. We had words. Those 3 words, we had words, told me more than whatever came next. It meant fists had flown. It meant debts had been named. It meant lines had been crossed. Jonas, I whispered. What did you do? What I should have done ages ago. He leaned back, stared at the ceiling. I told him not to come back here. Told him if he set foot on our land again, I'd put him in the ground myself. Relief washed through me, sharp, hot. It was done. Without my poison. Without my sin. The jug on the shelf glowed amber in the lamplight, suddenly meaningless. All right, I breathed. Good. That's good. Jonas didn't respond. He just reached for the whiskey. Not the good whiskey in the cabinet. Not the bottle next to the stove. He reached for the whiskey. A jug. My jug. Before I could react, his fingers closed around the handle. Jonas. I need something, he muttered. Something to calm my heart. Heart. That cursed word. He lifted the jug, tilted it, drank deep. And I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to snatch it from him, to slap it away, to shout stop, but I stood rooted to the floor, horror filling my throat. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, set the jug down, exhaled. "Damn," he said. "That's strong." Then he smiled at me. A tired, worn smile that belonged to the man he used to be. Before my voice returned to me, he was already standing, staggering slightly, blinking slowly. "Mara," he mumbled. "My chest feels wrong." He took a step, then another. Then he dropped to his knees. My scream tore the silence apart. I don't remember grabbing him, or laying him across the table, or the way his eyes searched mine, begging for something I couldn't give. All I remember is the color draining from his face, the way his breath shuddered, the quiet, the stillness. I poisoned my husband. I watched it happen, every second of it. But the worst part wasn't that he died. The worst part was that he didn't die right away. He lingered, gasping, whispering my name, his hand trembling in mine. Long enough for me to feel the full weight of what I'd done. Long enough for the guilt to burn through every thought. And long enough for me to hear him say something that would haunt every moment afterward. "Mara, he's comin' back." Well, the wrong man still lived. And the right man, the man who had finally defended me, was dying on our kitchen table. Jonas's breath hitched once, twice, and then it simply wasn't there anymore. Silence filled the room, thick, dark, heavy. The silence of a home that had just lost its heart. And over that silence, I felt something else. Presence. Watching. I turned slowly toward the open door. And in the moonlight stood Lyle, smiling, as if he'd been watching the whole thing. Lyle's shadow stretched across the threshold, long as a hangman's rope. Moonlight caught the edge of his grin, that cold, carved thing that never reached his eyes. His hat sat low, brim shadowing his face except for the gleam of a tooth and the faint twitch of amusement. I stood frozen by the table, Jonas's weight still slumped heavy and cooling beneath my hands. The house felt too small, the air too thin. Whatever part of me had broken during Jonas's final breaths hadn't yet settled into place, and now Lyle stood framed by the darkness, like something summoned by guilt itself. He stepped inside without asking. Men like Lyle didn't ask. Asking implied an answer. His boots thudded against the floorboards, slow, deliberate. The smell of tobacco and desert wind followed him, curling around me like a noose. I wanted to move, but my legs anchored themselves to the blood-warm wood beneath my feet. "I'll be damned," he said softly. "Walked up on a whole scene, didn't I?" He removed his hat as though entering a church, head bowed slightly. Mocking reverence. "I thought Jonas was sleepin' at first." He smirked. "But that's not sleep, is it?" I swallowed hard, but my throat had dried into dust. The whiskey jug, the poison jug, sat on the shelf in plain sight between us. A single drop glistened near the lip. Lyle's eyes flicked to it, sharp, assessing. That gaze had a way of cutting straight through a person and pulling on whatever made them flinch. He noticed everything. He always had. What happened here, Mara? There were many answers. Only one truth. But the truth was a rattlesnake in my hands. Too dangerous to hold. I don't know," I whispered. His eyebrows rose. "You don't know." He said his chest hurt, I murmured. "He just collapsed." Lyle approached the table. He looked at Jonas the way a man looks at a horse he once bet on and then lost money over. With disappointment. With mild annoyance. Without grief. "Heart finally gave out on him," Lyle said. "I warned him it would." "No," I thought. "You warned nothing. You threatened him until his heart was half ruined with fear." Lyle's hand hovered over Jonas's chest like he was considering checking for a pulse. He didn't bother. Instead, he turned slowly toward me. "You look spooked," he observed. "Like you're the one who put him in the ground." My breath caught. My fingers curled. I stepped back without meaning to. His grin sharpened. I'm only teasin'. Calm yourself. Teasing. Always teasing. Cutting right where the nerves were rawest. I forced myself not to look at the jug, not even a glance. But Lyle followed the direction of my breath instead of my eyes. He was good at that, finding the thing a person was trying not to reveal. He strolled toward the shelf, boots scraping faintly. He ran his thumb along the glass jug, tapping once. The sound was small, but it shot down my spine. Jonas's favorite, he said lightly. He always drank too fast. He lifted the jug and sniffed. His expression didn't change, though maybe his eyes narrowed a fraction. You pour this? He asked casually. He hesitated. Too long. A woman ought to say yes quicker, he murmured. He tilted the jug slightly. Not enough to drink. Just enough to make me imagine what would happen if he did. Suppose he drank too much, I whispered. Suppose his heart. Suppose, Lyle cut in. You're saying he drank himself to death in his own home? Yes. Lyle set the jug back down, not where I left it but closer, too close to where I stood. He leaned one hip against the counter. His voice dropped to a quiet murmur. Strange timing, though. Don't you think? My hands shook. I hid them behind my skirt. What timing? He stepped forward. Close enough for me to see the fleck of something dark, dirt or dried blood, beneath his fingernail. Timing of Jonas dyin'. The same night he and I had a little quarrel. His head tilted, eyes narrowing. Town's gonna love that story. Felt cold all over. I won't tell town anything. No, Lyle said, but I reckon someone will ask. Deputy maybe. Or that new sheriff boy. He paused. You'll vouch for me, won't you? The question was simple. The threat behind it was not. I just lost my husband, I whispered. He chuckled. And I'm asking you to keep quiet about how I didn't kill him. He closed the distance between us. I stepped back until my hips struck the table, Jonas's shoulder still grazing mine. The smell of wood stain and sweat and death clung to the air. Lyle placed a hand on my cheek. Not rough. Gentle. Far worse. You look pale, sweetheart, he murmured. Real pale. Like someone caught in a lie. I trembled so sharply I knew he felt it. You scared of me? He asked quietly. I didn't answer. He smiled that thin, wicked smile, the one that had haunted me long before tonight. You ought to be. Jonas was buried by sunrise. We didn't have a pastor out here, not one worth calling. No church bell. No coffin. Just a shallow grave behind the barn and a pile of rocks to keep scavengers away. Lyle insisted on helping. We're friends, he said. Or we were. He dug while I fetched the tools with numb hands. The sun rose slow and red, like it didn't want to witness what we were doing. Lyle worked shirtless in the heat, sweat rolling down his back in thin rivulets. I refused to look anywhere near him, but the sound of his shovel striking earth echoed through my bones. Jonas lay on a canvas tarp nearby, still wrapped in the bedsheet. His body was stiff, arms bent awkwardly across his chest. I wanted to reach out and fix them, to make him look like himself again, but the strength wouldn't come. My hands stayed clamped at my sides. You sure you don't want me to say a few words? Well called. I don't want anything from you, I said quietly. He laughed like I'd told him a joke. When the hole was deep enough, he dragged Jonas toward the edge. Something in Jonas's arm snagged on the tarp, twisting sharply. Flinched. Easy, I whispered. Lyle glanced up, smirking. Dead is dead. He ain't feelin' much. He tipped Jonas in without ceremony. Just dropped him. My chest constricted. The sound, the dull thud of a body striking dirt, will stay with me until the end of my days. Say your piece, Lyle said, wiping sweat from his brow. I tried to speak, but the words tangled into a knot. In the end, all I said was, I'm sorry. Lyle leaned on his shovel. For what? I didn't answer. He began to cover the grave. Each shovelful of dirt hit with a wet, final sound. Dust rose in little clouds, clinging to my eyelashes, my lips, the corners of my throat. When it was done, Lyle placed a single flat rock on top of the mound and stepped back. "There," he announced. "Decent enough. Decent enough." As if any part of this could be called decent. He picked up his shirt, slung it over his shoulder, and strode toward the house like he'd built it himself. I stayed by the grave until the sun rose fully and baked the skin on my neck. When I finally followed, my footsteps felt like I was walking into my own fate. Lyle didn't leave that day. Or the next. Every night he sat on Jonas's chair on the porch, boots crossed, hat tipped low, drinking my whiskey, the good whiskey, not the jug. He talked to me like we were partners now, like Jonas's death had opened some door he'd been waiting to walk through. And every night I felt the house shrinking, the walls leaning in. He watched me cook, watched me clean, watched me breathe. He offered to help around the place for a while. He said he owed Jonas that much. But I knew the truth even before he said it outright on the third evening. "You're alone now, Mara. Ain't safe to be alone out here. Lucky for you I'm around." Lucky. Lucky. That word sank beneath my skin like a splinter. "I don't want company," I murmured. "Want's got nothin' to do with it." He stretched, fingers brushing the grip of the revolver at his hip. "I'm stayin'. And if I say no?" He smiled slowly. "You won't." I went quiet. Not because I accepted it, but because I had no fight left. Not yet. Not then. But fear has a way of fermenting into something else if you let it sit long enough. Lyle wasn't a visitor anymore. He was a storm. And storms can be survived. Or stopped. The first strange thing happened that night. I woke to a sound. Soft scratching, like an animal trying to claw its way under the house. The darkness pressed heavy against the windows. The room felt colder than it should have. "Mara." A whisper. Or maybe not a whisper. Maybe a memory trickling through my mind. I sat up, heart pounding. The sound came again. Not scratching. Breathing. Right outside my door. I slipped from the bed, bare feet silent on the worn floor. My hand closed around the small knife I kept tucked beneath the mattress. Jonas used to tease me for it. He'd grown up believing locks kept people honest. I grew up knowing locks only slowed them down. The knob turned. Just a fraction. Just enough. I held my breath. "Mara." Lyle's voice. Low. Threaded with something slick and poisonous. I didn't move. Didn't answer. The knob stilled. Silence. Then footsteps, slow, dragging, as though he wanted me to know he was walking away. There are men whose footsteps you can sleep through. Lyle's were not those footsteps. When dawn came, I found an empty whiskey bottle on the porch, 2 fresh cigar butts, and a mark on my door frame. Small, deliberate, cut with a knife. Nudge. Claim. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't run. Began to plan. The kind of planning that doesn't come from panic, but from clarity sharpened by terror. I had killed one man by mistake. I would not make the same mistake twice, and I would not fail the second time. Foxglove hadn't worked the way I intended, but other things would. I thought of the dry creek bed behind the barn. The revolver Jonas kept hidden under a loose floorboard. The well. The cellar. A woman alone has to learn every weakness in her home. And I thought of Lyle's habits, the way he drank before bed, the way he liked to sit near the open window at night, the way he always left his boots at the door to keep from tracking dust inside. He was careful about dirt. He was not careful about me. The poison hadn't been for Jonas. Had been for Lyle. It was still for Lyle. He had taken everything from me. My safety, my breath, my husband's last words. But he hadn't taken my mind. Not yet. That I still had. And I intended to use it. 3 nights after Jonas's burial, Lyle stood on the porch at dusk, leaning against the railing, the sky bleeding orange behind him. The bottle in his hand glinted. His shadow stretched across the boards like a long, dark stain. I stepped outside. Low. Steady. "Mara," he said, not looking at me. You're up late. I couldn't sleep. That's so. He took a drink. You need company at night. Helps a woman rest. I ignored the suggestion. There's something I want to ask you, I said. Well, he grinned. That's new. Why did you come here the night Jonas died? He stiffened. Not much. Just a fraction. But enough. Told you, he said lightly. He and I had a disagreement. Wanted to speak peace of it. After midnight. What can I say? Felt like walkin'. You weren't walking. I met his eyes. You were watching. He chuckled but his jaw tightened. You think I had something to do with Jonas dyin'? I think you were there. Lal set the bottle down carefully. Too carefully. Mara, he said slowly. You best not twist stories in your head. Folks see a widow talkin' wrong about a man. They think she's looking to blame someone for what happened. I'm not blaming you. You sound like you are. The air thickened. Night gathered behind him, swallowing the last of the sun. Jonas said something before he died, I whispered. He said, he's coming back. Lyle froze. Completely. Then he lifted the bottle again, drank deep, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. And if he meant me, Lyle said softly. What of it? I held his gaze. Unflinching. Unblinking. He was afraid of you. His smile vanished. Not faded, vanished like a candle snuffed. Then something new flickered in his eyes. Not amusement. Not cruelty. Fear. Only for a second, but it was there. If Jonas was afraid, Lyle murmured, stepping closer, it's because he knew his sins were catching up to him. Sins. Lyle nodded slowly. Every man's got 'em. Some worse than others. What did he do? Lyle smirked. You sure you wanna know? I said nothing. Lyle's voice dropped to a whisper. He told me things, Mara. Things he ought not to have said. Things about you. Chill swept through me. What things? You, he said softly, stepping even closer, his breath warm against my cheek. Ain't half as innocent as people think. I stepped back. He let me. But the look on his face told me he'd seen enough. And he liked it. Feel that? He asked, voice warming like honey on steel. That fear. That anger. That's why he stayed with you. And that's why I'm staying too. I stared at him, pulse pounding. You're wrong, I whispered. About what? About why Jonas stayed. La laughed. Enlighten me. I met his gaze, steady as the desert horizon. Because I was the only thing he had left. Lyle stepped back half a pace, studying me with a look I couldn't read. Then he said something that made my blood turn to ice. I ain't much different from Jonas. My voice shook. You're everything he wasn't. He smiled. That's what you think now. Later that night, after Lyle finally passed out in Jonas's chair, legs sprawled, head tilted back, snoring loud enough to shake the windows, I crept through the house with the quiet steps of a fox. The moonlight guided me to the loose floorboard beneath the bed. I lifted it. The revolver lay nestled inside. Old, rusted in places, but loaded. I wrapped my fingers around the grip. Cold. Solid. Heavy with purpose. I slipped it beneath my apron, tucked snug against my thigh. This time I wouldn't rely on poison. Poison could betray you. But a bullet was honest. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom for a long moment, listening to Lyle breathe in the other room. Soft, steady, unaware. He thought he had all the power. He didn't know the desert teaches a woman many things if she listens long enough. The desert had taught me patience, silence, survival. And now it had taught me something new. If I wanted to live, Lyle had to die. Tomorrow night I would make my move. I just didn't know then. Lyle was already planning something of his own. Lyle woke before dawn. I heard him stir in the chair, a groggy grunt, the scrape of boots being found in the dark. I held my breath beneath the blanket, eyes open, body still. His footsteps thudded across the floorboards, unhurried but direct, moving toward the bedroom doorway. Heard me. I closed my eyes, masked my breathing, let my chest rise and fall slow. He paused at the threshold. I could feel him there, the weight of his gaze pressing against my back, lingering too long, searching the silence for something wrong, something off. The revolver tucked against my thigh was colder than the morning air. Finally, he muttered something under his breath, a curse or a prayer or some ugly merge of the two, and walked out the back door. I didn't move until I heard the barn door groan open, then shut. Only then did I let the tension bleed from my limbs. My heart felt bruised from beating too hard. Sweat chilled the back of my neck. The plan had been simple enough. Get him drunk again tonight, let him get comfortable, then use the revolver before he realized what was happening. Simple plan. But simple plans require predictable men. Lyle was not predictable. He was shifting, twitching, changing shape like smoke. He hadn't drunk nearly enough last night. The man could put away liquor like water and wake steady as sunrise. Another night like that and he'd be sharper, more aware. I needed him fogged, sluggish, confident he had nothing to fear. But this morning, this early rising, this silent watching, unsettled me more than everything that had come before. Something had shifted in him last night. And I had no idea which way. I dressed slowly and stepped outside. The dawn air bit at my cheeks. The desert stretched out before me, endless and pale, like a painting done in shades of bone. The wind carried dust across the ground in soft, hissing spirals. Down by the barn, Lyle tossed hay to the horse, Jonas's horse. A black mare with a white blaze down her face. She didn't like Lyle. I knew because her ears pinned back every time he approached, as though she could smell the rot beneath his skin better than I could. "Morning," Lyle called, not turning around. "Morning." He jammed the pitchfork into the dirt and finally faced me. His expression was unreadable, which was never a good sign. When Lyle hid emotion, it meant he was either thinking or lying. Or both. "Didn't know you were up," he said. "You woke me." His eyes narrowed a fraction. "You sleep light these days. You sleep light." As if he had been testing that. "I lost my husband 3 nights ago," I said quietly. "And I'm still here," he replied with a shrug. "Ain't that somethin'?" Most men would have cleared out once the woman started looking at him funny. "I don't look at you funny." "No." He stepped toward me, boots crunching on the dry ground. "Then what do you look at me like, Mara?" I felt the revolver's weight beneath my skirt like a secret heartbeat. "Like a man who needs to leave," I said. He stared at me long and hard, not angry, not mocking, just studying, measuring, as if deciding whether I would break or bend or snap back. Finally he said, "I'll leave when I'm ready." My pulse kicked hard against my ribs. "And when will that be?" I whispered. He smirked. "When Jonas's ghost stops following me around." A cold ripple crawled across my skin. "Ghost? Don't look at me like that. You know damn well what I mean." He dusted off his hands. Jonas had things to answer for. Dead men don't get out of debts just 'cause their hearts gave up. "What debts?" Lyle's jaw tensed. "He told me things." He always said that, told me things, but he never explained. It was a seed he'd planted, and it grew in the darkest corners of my mind every night. "You keep saying that," I snapped, the edge in my voice surprising even me. "But you never explain yourself." He stepped closer. Too close. His breath brushed my cheek. Warm, metallic with whiskey, sour with sleep. "You sure you want to know?" he murmured. "Yes." He smiled faintly. "No," he said softly. "You're not." I shivered. Not from fear. From fury. He turned and walked toward the well without another word. The rope creaked as he lowered the bucket, humming an off-key tune as though the weight of my stare meant nothing to him. But something was wrong. I felt it deep in my ribs. I was nervous, trying to hide it but not well enough. His movements were slightly off, too careful, too deliberate. He glanced over his shoulder more than once. He wasn't humming because he was relaxed. He was humming because he was trying to seem relaxed. Lyle was hiding something. The question was whether it was about Jonas or about me. Or both. By afternoon, the heat arrived like punishment. The day swelled, air shimmering. Lyle spent most of the hours pacing between the barn, the porch, and the dry creek bed, as if he was waiting for someone, or expecting trouble, or creating it. I watched him from the kitchen window, hands trembling around the loaf of bread I was slicing. Every so often he touched the gun at his hip, unconsciously, like a man making sure his heart was still beating. I needed him alone. I needed him unsteady. I needed him predictable. Instead, he was everything but. Around mid-afternoon, he walked inside without knocking. The screen door slapped shut, making me jump. "You followin' me?" he asked. "I live here," I replied, voice tight. "Feels like you're watchin' me." "Maybe I am." He grinned. "You ain't subtle, Mara." He stepped toward the counter, picked up a slice of bread, sniffed it, then tossed it back down like it offended him. "You're quiet today," he said. "I'm tired." "Well, try being married to Jonas. That'll wear anyone out." I stiffened. He noticed. "Oh, come now," he said lightly, leaning against the table. "You don't think I believed all that good husband talk he put on for show, do you?" He wasn't. "He wasn't what?" Lyle interrupted. "Cruel. Lazy. Drunk most nights. Ain't you the one who told him to stop drinkin' so much?" My throat closed around a sudden lump. "How do you know that?" I whispered. He smiled. "He told me." I backed away a step, though I didn't intend to. Lyle's eyes locked onto mine. Knowing. "He said you nagged him about it every damn week," Lyle continued. "Said you didn't understand the pressure he was under. Said you didn't know half the things he had to do to keep this place runnin'." My pulse stumbled. "What things?" Lyle chuckled. "You keep a skin that. You ever think there's a reason he never told you?" I swallowed hard. "You're lying. If I were, you'd know." He tapped his temple. "You're a smart one. Too smart sometimes." He pushed off the table and moved toward the door. "I'm headin' to town," he said. "Need supplies." "You're headin' to town. Now. Why?" I forced my voice steady. "When will you be back?" "Late." He glanced back at me. "Don't wait up." My stomach twisted. Late. Late meant dark. Dark meant opportunity. Or danger. The screen door snapped shut behind him. I stepped to the window, watching his silhouette shrink as he walked down the dirt road. His gait was confident. Too confident for someone who'd been pacing like a restless animal all morning. Halfway down the road he stopped, looked back toward the house. Even from a distance I felt his eyes rake over the walls, the windows, searching for secrets. Then he turned and kept walking. My breath escaped me in a shudder. He was hiding something. And whatever it was, tonight would reveal it. Lyle returned long after nightfall, but not the way I expected. I had been sitting at the kitchen table, revolver hidden beneath my skirt, lantern low, waiting for the sound of boots on the steps. But when the door finally creaked open, I knew instantly something was wrong. He didn't slam the door like he usually did. He didn't announce himself. He slipped inside quietly. Too quietly. I rose slowly, fingers brushing the revolver's grip. "Lyle!" called softly. "Is that you?" Silence. Then his voice drifted from the darkness, soft and uneven. "Mara." Froze. Something was off. His tone, it wasn't smug or mocking or threatening. It was strained, wavering, like a man whose edges had come loose. I took a slow step forward. "Lyle," I repeated. He stepped into the lantern glow, and my breath hitched. Blood streaked his shirt. Not soaking but smeared. Not a wound, evidence. He wasn't hurt. Someone else was. "What did you do?" I whispered. Lyle looked at me, eyes unfocused. "I found something," he said quietly. "At the edge of town." My pulse roared in my ears. "What?" Press. He took another step toward me. The blood on his shirt glistened. "I found something," he repeated, voice cracking. "And it ain't sittin' right with me." He looked rattled. Lyle never rattled. Lyle's gaze softened, not kindly but gently, as if talking to a frightened animal. Who else was here that night? Froze. My blood went still. There had been no one else. No strangers. No travelers. No. My breath caught. There was someone else. Someone who came and went like a shadow. Someone who lingered near the porch steps. Someone who whispered things Jonas never repeated. Someone Jonas always avoided talking about. Dante, I breathed. Lyle's eyes brightened. There it is. The drifter who'd passed through 2 months before. A quiet man with tired eyes and a scar across his jaw. Jonas gave him odd jobs for a few days, paid him in stew and bed space in the barn. Then Dante left. Or so I thought. You're tellin' me, my voice trembled. You're tellin' me the man I saw die was not your husband. The room swayed. I reached for the table to steady myself. That can't be. I would have recognized. Would you? My breath hitched. Foxglove distorts the face when the heart slows like that, Lyle said quietly. Jaw locks different. You sink. Skin goes gray. You saw a dying man, Mara, but your mind filled in the rest. A tremor ran through me so violently the revolver slipped from my grasp and clattered to the floor. Lyle didn't reach for it. He just watched me. I didn't bury Jonas, I whispered. No. You buried him. No, he said softly. I buried a stranger. And you helped. My knees buckled. I sank onto the edge of the chair, bile stinging my throat. Where is he? Choke. Where's Jonas? Lyle looked down at the blood on his hands. For once he didn't smile. I don't know, he admitted. My stomach twisted. You knew something. I knew he was hiding something, Lyle said. I knew he owed someone. I knew he was scared. Of you. He shook his head. Of something bigger. Something he didn't want you mixed up in. Then why did you come that night? I demanded. His expression shifted, guilt, regret, something darker, then quickly smoothed away. I thought confronting him would force it out, he said. Turns out I was late. Late. He nodded. Jonas was already gone. My pulse pounded loud enough to drown out his words. But I saw someone, I whispered. In the doorway after Jonas, after the man died. I saw a man. And it was you. He met my gaze steadily. I know. Then you. I didn't kill him, Lyle said, voice firm. I swear on every grave in this desert. I didn't kill that man. Then why were you smiling? My voice broke. Why were you standing there watching? He pressed his bloody hand to his forehead. Because I saw what you did, he said softly. And I knew you didn't mean it. I knew you aimed for me. His words struck like a knife driven slow. You think I killed someone because I meant to kill you? He nodded. And you think that makes you innocent? I whispered, shaking. No, Lyle murmured. Just human. Silence. Long. Unbearable. Finally, I forced out the question that had been clawing at my chest since the moment the ring dropped from that cloth. Why did you bring me this? Lyle looked up, eyes hollow. Because I needed you to know you ain't finished yet. A chill crawled across my spine. What does that mean? He leaned back against the wall, breath shallow. It means Jonas is out there. My heart stopped. And he ain't running from me. Lyle's voice dropped to a rasp. He's running from whoever wanted him dead. The room seemed to tilt. And now, Lyle whispered, they'll be looking for you. I staggered back, pulse roaring. Why me? His eyes locked onto mine. Cold. Clear. Because, he said softly, if they learn you saw the wrong man die, they'll want to make sure you don't see the right one. I trembled. And they'll be comin', Mara. Lyle exhaled slowly, blood dripping from his jaw. They'll be comin' soon. Lyle slumped against the wall like the wind had gone out of him. Blood streaked the side of his face, drying in dark rivulets. The lamplight flickered over him, carving hollows beneath his cheekbones. Despite the wound, despite the gun inches from his boot, he looked strangely calm, resigned, almost relieved, as if telling me the truth had been a weight lifted from his ribs. Or maybe he knew the weight had simply shifted to mine. I stood there, breathing shallow, hands trembling, unable to anchor myself in the moment. Jonas alive. A stranger dead. My hands the cause. My mind the witness. My memory unreliable. Everything I thought I understood had collapsed like rotten timber. What do you mean they're coming? I whispered. Lyle's eyes flicked up. Something sharp, fear or fury, flashed beneath the surface. You ever wonder, he rasped, why Jonas always kept to himself? Why he never let you into his work? Why he locked up that barn ledger like it was scripture? I thought. You thought he was proud. Thought he was difficult. Thought he was ashamed. Lyle shook his head. No, Mara. Jonas was scared. Too scared to sleep some nights. My breath hitched. What was he mixed up in? Lyle pressed his palm harder against his wound, wincing. Trouble with the kind of men who don't forgive debts. Men who make their own law. You know the type. I did. Everyone in the West did. A chill clawed its way up my spine. What did Jonas owe them? Money, Lyle said. Information. Maybe both. Jonas wasn't stupid. He kept records. Kept them too damn well. Someone wanted those records gone. And you, I whispered. How do you fit into all this? He exhaled slowly, eyes falling closed. Jonas told me to leave it alone, he said. Said if I pushed, I'd get myself killed. Said if I pushed harder, I'd get you killed. Lyle's gaze softened, not kindly but gently, as if talking to a frightened animal. Who else was here that night? Froze. My blood went still. There had been no one else. No strangers. No travelers. No. My breath caught. There was someone else. Someone who came and went like a shadow. Someone who lingered near the porch steps. Someone who whispered things Jonas never repeated. Someone Jonas always avoided talking about. Dante, I breathed. Lyle's eyes brightened. There it is. The drifter who'd passed through 2 months before. A quiet man with tired eyes and a scar across his jaw. Jonas gave him odd jobs for a few days, paid him in stew and bed space in the barn. Then Dante left. Or so I thought. You're tellin' me, my voice trembled. You're tellin' me the man I saw die was not your husband. The room swayed. I reached for the table to steady myself. That can't be. I would have recognized. Would you? My breath hitched. Foxglove distorts the face when the heart slows like that, Lyle said quietly. Jaw locks different. You sink. Skin goes gray. You saw a dying man, Mara, but your mind filled in the rest. A tremor ran through me so violently the revolver slipped from my grasp and clattered to the floor. Lyle didn't reach for it. He just watched me. I didn't bury Jonas, I whispered. No. You buried him. No, he said softly. I buried a stranger. And you helped. My knees buckled. I sank onto the edge of the chair, bile stinging my throat. Where is he? Choke. Where's Jonas? Lyle looked down at the blood on his hands. For once he didn't smile. I don't know, he admitted. My stomach twisted. You knew something. I knew he was hiding something, Lyle said. I knew he owed someone. I knew he was scared. Of you. He shook his head. Of something bigger. Something he didn't want you mixed up in. Then why did you come that night? I demanded. His expression shifted, guilt, regret, something darker, then quickly smoothed away. I thought confronting him would force it out, he said. Turns out I was late. Late. He nodded. Jonas was already gone. My pulse pounded loud enough to drown out his words. But I saw someone, I whispered. In the doorway after Jonas, after the man died. I saw a man. And it was you. He met my gaze steadily. I know. Then you. I didn't kill him, Lyle said, voice firm. I swear on every grave in this desert. I didn't kill that man. Then why were you smiling? My voice broke. Why were you standing there watching? He pressed his bloody hand to his forehead. Because I saw what you did, he said softly. And I knew you didn't mean it. I knew you aimed for me. His words struck like a knife driven slow. You think I killed someone because I meant to kill you? He nodded. And you think that makes you innocent? I whispered, shaking. No, Lyle murmured. Just human. Silence. Long. Unbearable. Finally, I forced out the question that had been clawing at my chest since the moment the ring dropped from that cloth. Why did you bring me this? Lyle looked up, eyes hollow. Because I needed you to know you ain't finished yet. A chill crawled across my spine. What does that mean? He leaned back against the wall, breath shallow. It means Jonas is out there. My heart stopped. And he ain't running from me. Lyle's voice dropped to a rasp. He's running from whoever wanted him dead. The room seemed to tilt. And now, Lyle whispered, they'll be looking for you. I staggered back, pulse roaring. Why me? His eyes locked onto mine. Cold. Clear. Because, he said softly, if they learn you saw the wrong man die, they'll want to make sure you don't see the right one. I trembled. And they'll be coming, Mara. Lyle exhaled slowly, blood dripping from his jaw. They'll be coming soon. Lyle slumped against the wall like the wind had gone out of him. Blood streaked the side of his face, drying in dark rivulets. The lamplight flickered over him, carving hollows beneath his cheekbones. Despite the wound, despite the gun inches from his boot, he looked strangely calm, resigned, almost relieved, as if telling me the truth had been a weight lifted from his ribs. Or maybe he knew the weight had simply shifted to mine. I stood there, breathing shallow, hands trembling, unable to anchor myself in the moment. Jonas alive. A stranger dead. My hands the cause. My mind the witness. My memory unreliable. Everything I thought I understood had collapsed like rotten timber. What do you mean they're coming? I whispered. Lyle's eyes flicked up. Something sharp, fear or fury, flashed beneath the surface. You ever wonder, he rasped, why Jonas always kept to himself? Why he never let you into his work? Why he locked up that barn ledger like it was scripture? I thought. You thought he was proud. Thought he was difficult. Thought he was ashamed. Lyle shook his head. No, Mara. Jonas was scared. Too scared to sleep some nights. My breath hitched. What was he mixed up in? Lyle pressed his palm harder against his wound, wincing. Trouble with the kind of men who don't forgive debts. Men who make their own law. You know the type. I did. Everyone in the West did. A chill clawed its way up my spine. What did Jonas owe them? Money, Lyle said. Information. Maybe both. Jonas wasn't stupid. He kept records. Kept them too damn well. Someone wanted those records gone. And you, I whispered. How do you fit into all this? He exhaled slowly, eyes falling closed. Jonas told me to leave it alone, he said. Said if I pushed, I'd get myself killed. Said if I pushed harder, I'd get you killed. A tremor rippled through me. He was protecting me. Lyle gave a humorless laugh. In his own clumsy way. My throat tightened. Jonas, secretive, stubborn, frustrating Jonas, protecting me from something I couldn't see. Something I hadn't even dreamed existed. Something that now knew I existed. When you came that night, I whispered. What were you trying to do? Lyle shifted, pain tightening his jaw. I wanted to scare him into telling me the truth. I figured he'd break. Jonas always did when cornered. He wasn't here. No, Lyle said quietly. Just that stranger. My stomach twisted. And you saw me. I saw you panic, he cut in gently. I saw you try to get rid of what you thought was a threat. You weren't thinkin' right. I meant to kill you, I whispered. He nodded once. I know. Silence wrapped around us. Heavy, suffocating. The truth sat between us like a coiled snake. There was no undoing it. No reversing the night that had shattered everything. But Lyle wasn't done. And now, he said with effort, those same men, the ones Jonas ran from, they'll come here looking for answers. And they won't care who gives them. My heartbeat faltered. How long do we have? Lyle tilted his head toward the window, listening. The dry wind scraped against the barn boards outside. The night hung still, holding its breath. Not long, he murmured. I moved on instinct. Shaking fingers closed the shutters. I doused the lamp halfway to dim the glow. My hands grabbed blankets, water, anything to stuff into a canvas satchel. If danger was coming, I wasn't meeting it unarmed or unprepared. Lyle watched me with hooded eyes. You're leavin'? He asked. Yes. With me. Froze. The question hung in the air like dust motes, shimmering, impossible to avoid. Why would I trust you? I whispered. He huffed a quiet laugh. Because I'm the only one who knows what's chasing you. It wasn't the answer I wanted. But it was the truth. Still, something in me resisted. Something deep and stubborn. You manipulated me, I said. Into burying that man. Into thinking Jonas. I never told you what to think. His voice was rough. I just didn't correct it. That's the same thing. No, he said softly. It ain't. I swallowed hard, gaze drifting to the revolver on the floor. I don't know if I can trust you, I said. You can't, he replied simply. But you also can't outrun those men alone. And Jonas? He's done run too far for you to catch him without me. My breath hitched. You know where he went. Lyle didn't answer right away. But the flicker in his eyes was answer enough. You son of a... I didn't tell you because no one would have got you killed. His voice sharpened. If they hear Jonas had a wife still breathin', they'll use you. They'll drag you through every mile of desert to get to him. My fingers tightened on the satchel strap. So you're saying I'm already dead? No, his gaze fixed on mine. I'm saying we can leave before they get here. It should have sounded comforting. Instead it sounded like a new kind of trap. You expect me to run with you? I whispered. He hesitated. Expect? Well, hope maybe. The honesty caught me off guard. Lyle wasn't a man who admitted hopes easily. Or at all. I knelt and picked up the revolver. His eyes followed the motion with quiet understanding, not fear. You gonna shoot me again, he murmured. I'm thinkin', I said. Well, think fast. A sound drifted in through the dark. Not wind. Not the creak of wood. Hoofbeats. Far off. Faint. But real. My breath stilled. Lyle's expression hardened. They're early. The hoofbeats grew louder. Multiple horses. Heavy. Deliberate. Not passing travelers. Not ranch hands. Men riding with intent. Panic spidered through my chest. What do we do? I whispered. Lyle pushed himself to his feet with a groan. Hand pressed hard to the bleeding side of his face. We run. Where? Anywhere but here. And Jonas. He met my gaze, steady, sharp, certain. We'll find him. But you won't get the chance if you die tonight. The hoofbeats thundered now, closing in. I grabbed my coat, my hat, the satchel. The revolver stayed tight in my grip. Lyle staggered toward the back door. Mara, he rasped, pausing long enough to meet my eyes. Don't look back when you leave the house. You'll hesitate. You'll think about stayin'. And hesitation's a luxury that gets people buried shallow. The same words he'd used that morning. Now they meant something entirely different. He pushed the door open. Cold night air swept in, carrying the scent of sage and dust and danger. The hoofbeats were close. Too close. Voices followed, low mutters, sharp whistles, the sound of men accustomed to hunting. I stepped toward Lyle. My pulse throbbed hot in my throat. Why are you helping me? I demanded. He glanced over his shoulder. And for the first time, the very first time, Lyle looked almost kind. Because I already ruined your life, he said quietly. I ain't gonna let them finish it. I didn't know what to say. Didn't have time to say it. He took my wrist, tugged me into the night. We ran. Past the porch. Across the packed dirt. Toward the barn and the dark stretch of desert beyond. Behind us, horses skidded to a halt. Boots hit the ground. Voices barked orders. Men shouted for lanterns. Guns cocked. But I didn't look back. Not once. Lyle's grip was iron. His breath harsh. His wound leaking blood with each stride. We made it past the creek bed, its dry stones glowing pale beneath the moon. When we reached the far edge of the property, Lyle finally slowed, gasping. Mara, he panted. Stop. Turned chest heaving. What? He pointed. My stomach dropped. The place behind the creek had been disturbed. Freshly dug dirt. A shallow hole. The same spot where Lyle claimed he found the wrong body. Only now it was empty. Where? The words scraped out of my throat. Lyle wiped blood from his jaw. Someone dug him up, he said. My pulse misfired. Who? Lyle turned his head toward the distant lantern light blooming near the house. The men who want Jonas, he whispered. Or Jonas himself. The night pressed in around us. Vast, merciless, unblinking. I tightened my grip on the revolver. What do we do now? I asked quietly. Lyle's gaze cut through the dark, fierce and unwavering despite the blood trailing down his neck. Now, he said, we find the man you meant to kill. He started walking into the open desert. I hesitated only a moment, then followed. The night swallowed us both, leaving nothing behind but hoofprints, the scent of dust, and the truth still waiting out there in the dark. Waiting to be unearthed. Waiting to be seen. Waiting to finish what had begun the night I accidentally poisoned the wrong man. Don't forget to click the subscribe button.